I lived in a haunted French castle, and here's the story. When I was 14 years old, my mom and I had a really cool opportunity to go live in this castle off of France on an island called Corsica. The castle was on this huge plot of land, and if you know anything about history, Napoleon's right hand man, Count Sebastiani, he died in it. Anyways, so our flights got a little bit confused, and I arrived there 3 days earlier. I was 14, so I was in the house for 3 days with no electricity and no water because apparently there wasn't any until my mom came to turn it on. It was 4 stories, and when I first got there, there was like the maid who was showing me all the rooms. And I remember after she left, I was crying and so upset because I didn't know how to get to the kitchen because it was that confusing and that big of a castle. The castle hadn't been lived in for years, so it was spooky, terrifying, cobwebs, no furniture, and all the furniture there was there had white sheets on top of it. And somehow I stayed there for 3 days by myself. I can't make this up because we had no electricity, my phone died. So I literally had to use a candle at night. The first night, I remember hearing really weird noises. I just concluded it was like the window pane shutters, I guess, but I heard voices specifically. I remember windows shutting, doors slamming, weird breezes in the house, weird, like the weirdest things possible. And what was really weird is, I mean, it was a huge castle, but even after a week of being there and exploring the property all day, I still couldn't get to the kitchen. Like, I couldn't find it. So I would literally be walking around crying my eyes out of going, this is the weirdest thing in the world. I thought the kitchen was right here. And then I would walk up the stairs and it wasn't there. Anyways, all's well. My mom ends up coming 3 days later, turn on the electricity, and things are actually kind of normal for a little bit, but I still hear voices, and all of those weird things keep happening at night. And by the way, it's only at night. Like, it is not during the day. It is as soon as the sun, you can no longer see the sun, everything would start like a dime. But this is where it gets like terrifying and the police get involved. It was horrible. One day we come back from the grocery store and everything is stolen. Like, a burglar came in, destroyed everything pretty much. Obviously, that gave me such bad PTSD, but we decided to hire live-in help to kind of always monitor the house and deter people from breaking into the castle. Even though there is a 12-foot wall, gated wall around the entire castle, how they got in, we don't know. Anyways, the help were two really young 20-year-old kids, Clara and Simon, and they were both from Marseille, France. They came over, and because the house was so big, literally, they had like an entire wing of the house. They were in the West Wing. I mean, that's so cool to say that. And everything was great. They were so sweet. They were helping. They were making food. Like, it was literally awesome. But then one day, we hear Clara screaming from the attic. They did have like an attic entrance on their wing, so it wasn't odd. So I call my mom and we go running up to the attic. As we walk up the stairs on the white wall, there is blood on the wall. The door is broken in the room. It was like the bathroom. So we turn the corner. The door completely busted down. The mirror shattered, blood everywhere. And she is screaming in the corner, seated, squatted, terrified out of her mind, covered in blood, drenched in blood. While my mom is talking to her, I go to call the cops and I pull out my phone and there is no cell service anymore. The power goes off. It is like 12 at night. There is no power. All three of us look at each other and we're like, oh, this is it. So we ask her, where's Simon? And she didn't speak much English. So we're trying to like figure out where is Simon. She says, he did this to me. And then he jumped out the window. So with our flashlights, there was like a fireplace. So we took like the pokey thing from the fireplace and we're all walking with these weapons. She's covered in blood and we can't call the police. So the main staircase was like this turret. A turret is basically like the main circular thing that you see. So we're walking down and we see a shadow move in like the window of the turret. It was Simon. He starts chasing us and all three of us, I don't even remember because of the memory. I'm like blacked out of actually what happened. Somehow we got out of the house. But the gate was locked, so we were locked in because we didn't have a key because it was like one of those old gates you needed a physical giant metal key. So we went to like the guest house in the garden and we were hiding out there. The cell service turned back on. Turns out he cut the power cord. Don't know how that, like, he went to the electricity box and like turned off the breakers or whatever. The police end up coming and they arrest him. But during all this confusion, we can't find Clara. Like when the police come, we can't find her anymore. I don't know where she, like I don't know. So as we're telling the story, they're like, well, where's the girl? And my mom and I are going, so from outside of the gates, you can look up into the turret where that giant staircase is and there's windows in the turret. And when the police asked that, they were like, what is that up there? Clara steps out from behind us. And at this point, Simon is in custody. So Simon's in custody. Clara steps out from behind us. It's my mom and I, and we're looking up, going, what is that? And the police are going, well, who else is in the house? There's no one else in the house. We all remember watching it walk out of the view of the window. They did a whole sweep. They called in like the gendarmerie, which is like the police in France. And there was nothing there. There's no one in the house. We ended up moving out of the castle the next day. And we left a lot of our stuff because we went to a hotel like we were gone. And still no one lives in it to this day. Like there's no one, because we talked to all the people in the village and there's no one that lives there. So many things happened in this house. This is just like the top of the iceberg of the reality of that there are scary things that exist. So.
Okay, hold up. Being 14 years old, alone in a massive castle for 3 days with no electricity, that is literally the opening scene of every horror movie ever made. I would have been out the second the sun went down. She's talking about hearing voices and doors slamming, and honestly, at that age, your imagination runs wild. But then she mentions the blood. Whoa. Okay, that took a turn. This isn't just ghosts anymore. Walking up to the attic and seeing blood on the white walls, and the mirror shattered, that is visceral terror. The way she describes Clara screaming in the corner, you can feel that panic. And the twist, the shadow in the turret being Simon, that is terrifying because it's not supernatural. It's human. It's a real person hunting you in the dark. And the police finding nothing, that lingering mystery of where did they go helps explain why she has memory blocks. That's a trauma response right there. Your brain literally deletes the file because it's too scary to keep. I don't blame her for moving out the next day. I would have moved out the prior day. That is a survival story disguised as a travel memory. Speaking of survival and physical intensity, let's switch gears. That was fear for your life, but this next story is about the fear and pain of bringing a new life into the world. And trust me, it's just as chaotic.
Welcome to the story of my birth. I wasn't born, my child was. We got up to my 41-week midwife appointment, Scottish sweep, going home, playing Mario Kart. I was winning, as I always do. Since I'd had the sweep done, I was having cramping pain right down in my pelvis and in my lower back. Felt like period pain. And I started to get a bit more uncomfortable with the cramps, so I just thought, I've won enough times. It's just the cramps I get after a sweep. It's nothing. This was like 8 p.m. I was having a shower. The cramping was starting to come like in waves. 9 days overdue at this point. And I've been waiting so long to go into labour. And I was so vigilant for the signs. But it snuck up on me, didn't it? The biggest issue was I just had this constant back pain. I decided I would blow dry my hair with a round brush. And then I'm getting these sort of waves of pain, but really low down in my pelvis. And it felt sharp, but I just, again, was thinking, these are just cramps. I had to stop, gather myself, drying my hair when this pain would come. Still, didn't click. I had an app where you could track contractions. So I started timing, and I remember feeling a bit scared, actually. I don't think my brain had clicked over to what was going on, but what threw me was the back pain. And also, it didn't feel like what I thought it would feel like. Rather than like a warm, muscular pain, it felt like a sharp, bony pain. I was like bent over the bed here. I mean, that's how we conceived. Stop it. I'd done about 10 of these waves of pain on the app, and it popped up with, you are in established labour. And I was like, this app's rubbish. It's broken. And I was getting these pains every 3 minutes, and they were lasting over a minute. So my partner came upstairs, and I was like, I think we need to call maternity triage. The thing here I constantly think about, not disappointed about, but that I would change. Even though I'd been so excited for labour, in the moment that it happened, I wasn't ready. I haven't had time to get your head in the game. Troy Bolton haven't mentioned, having these pains for about 40 minutes at this point, very intense and coming quite quickly. I couldn't get comfortable. Golden hour. We called maternity triage and I had just about enough time to get the main points out, and then another, now I realise, contraction came. They were very good. They were like, that's fine, we'll just wait. I had given myself the ick. I found it really cringe because I was like, what do you mean I can't talk on the phone? What do you mean? What do you mean it's taken away my voice? I'm like Ariel. I got my legs, but I lost my voice. It took us 15 minutes to get to the hospital and I had 4 contractions. I'd lasted about 40 minutes at home. We drove down a ramp we should not have driven down, under a barrier that should not have been open, and parked on a hatched area that we should not have parked on. He started checking me in and the woman at the desk gave me a urine pot. If you've been pregnant, you'll know they're just after our urine. And I was like, respectfully, no. Contraction came. The only thing I sort of found helped was to bury my face in my hands and then bend over, almost brace myself. I had in my mind that I wanted to not tense up during contractions. I wanted to relax and let it happen. As I was standing, I'll demonstrate. The pain was so low, my leg was like bending in and I was trying desperately to relax, but my body was like tensing. I had said to quite a lot of friends that I wasn't going to make any noise during labour. I certainly wasn't going to do any mooing. Oh my god, I was like a farm animal. It was giving EIEIO. What I did manage to do most of the time was keep it low frequency, but it was loud. Moving away at the desk, breathing quite quickly. I look up after my hyperventilation because also these contractions were lasting like a minute and a half and I still had the lower back pain. I look up and through my spotty vision I see a midwife. Must say the midwives were wonderful. If I were my midwife, I would have given me a shake. She took me through to triage. Just 2 paper curtains separating us was a lady having a CTG done. The issue was I couldn't get comfortable. I didn't have a let up between the contractions because of my lower back pain, but she sort of did the observations, checked in on the baby. I also had packed so many hairbands, but did I have one on me? No. There were some masks on the side and I tore off the elastic that goes around your ear and fashioned it into a hairband. I was examined. The whole week I'd been 2 centimetres dilated. I was still at that point 2 centimetres. So she said, you can go home if you would like. The idea of going and getting in a car, non possible. Now, pain relief. In my birth plan, I had said I only wanted to use gas and air. No pethidine, no diamorphine, no epidural. Ya gal, the pain in my back. Girlie, I need the diamorphine, please. Now, the thing with diamorphine, they don't like you to have it too late on to the baby being born because it does cross the placenta and it can make the baby a bit whacked. So I kind of knew if I was going to have anything more than gas and air, then I knew I had to have it now. The noises I was making, I feel for the poor lady having the CTG. There was a bit of shortage of diamorphine, but the midwife said that she knew an anaesthetist who had a stash. She found it and gave it to me, and they also give you an anti-sickness with it. Your gal went into spontaneous labour, so I got to go to the birth centre. There was like a modular couch that you could create different shapes with. It's giving soft play. I was getting a bit of an effect from the diamorphine, but it had been about 45 minutes and the contractions were still really severe. I think the pain in my back was a bit better, but I don't know whether the baby was moving a bit, because I think the back pain was because he wasn't back to back, but he was maybe a little bit on the side. Had this sort of semicircle piece and I'm over it like that, and I felt this sudden give and I thought that's got to be my waters going, but they looked and it was just a big fat mucus plug. So the mucus plug is basically the mucus that's in your cervical canal. It doesn't go just once because it can kind of replenish itself, so it can go numerous times. So anyway, that happened with force, and then what they do is they get you to put a pad on to look for if your waters are going. There was a student midwife who was brilliant. While my partner was out parking the car, I saw that he'd given my printed out birth preferences to the midwife, feeling a little bit more human, thank you morphine. So I made my way over and I could see the student was reading the bit that said no students, but I saw the benefit of having a student there and I said, don't worry, you can ignore that bit. The thing I found about having a student seemed to be massively helpful for the midwife. There's so much documentation to do, and the midwife was able to delegate that to the student, and it was just another encouraging voice in the room as well. She was so good at counter pressure, so she could see when that contraction was coming and my muscles on my back would tense and she would sort of push in and against it. I felt like I was going to burst apart, and the counter pressure was excellent. They gave us a little wooden octopus thing to do that on my back. What I will say, and trigger warning for anyone who is about to have a baby, the pain was sharp, bony, low, and it was the most severe pain I've ever experienced in my life. I remember in moments thinking there is no way that it is possible for a human to experience this level of pain and not just die. I loved the bit of hypnobirthing that I read about, but the word surge went out the window. I thought a contraction would feel like a muscular, warm, tensing feeling over your abdomen. I felt nothing over my belly, all right down in my pelvis. Oh my goodness. Found that staying upright, moving about, the gas nerve was great. I was going mental on it. Over the next 3 hours, I continued to labour. 2 occasions, I had quite a lot of blood. Very scary looking. The midwife said, that's fine, that's normal, it's the cervix changing, and we'll just keep an eye if it happens again. It happened again. So at this point, I was using gas and air. Gassonair. And the diamorphine, it says in the notes that Maddie does not appear to be experiencing the full analgesic effect of the morphine. Truth. I was a little bit away in a pleasant way. I didn't feel like out of it in a weird way. That with the Gassonair was actually really helpful. I was up and moving, kneeling. Now, because I'd had the diamorphine, I couldn't go in the pool immediately. You have to give it 4 hours so you don't drown. Over 2 to 3 hours, I'd gone from 2 centimeters to 8 centimeters. That it was coming hard and fast, and that was great news. And at this point, I started running the pool. I was skeptical about the pool. I'm not really a bath person, but I think it's because I don't fit in many of them. Loved it. I had a little bikini top on that was like a micro bikini. When I was on my way to the pool, I remember the midwife saying, don't rush, but I could feel a contraction coming. Probably launched myself a bit quick into the pool. I was like this, got my goggles on, but it was necessary. The buoyancy, the warmth, great for my back. There were handles and pulls. They didn't put the bubbles on. I was going a bit mental on the Gassonair. My partner was obviously standing by the pool. I was looking through him like this. And he would take the mouthpiece away and be like, okay, breathe some oxygen. 8 centimeters when I went in the pool. Stayed in the pool for about an hour. And what happened was my body started pushing itself. Immense pressure here, but also butthole. Have you ever had really bad diarrhea? Like the sort where you've eaten too many sugar-free sweets. Your body is pushing that and you've got no choice. My whole body was bearing down and I was not choosing to do it. And that sensation and that pressure, unbelievable. Because at this point, I'm entering active phase. And that will be another video.
First off, playing Mario Kart while 9 days overdue? That is icon behavior. She's winning races while her body is literally preparing to split open. But I love how real she is about the cramps. We always try to rationalize pain, don't we? Oh, it's just the sweep. I'm fine. And then, boom, established labor. The description of sharp, bony pain instead of muscular pain, that is such a specific, horrifying detail that nobody tells you about. And I have to laugh at the micro bikini in the birthing pool. Listen, when you are in that level of agony, fashion goes out the window, but she still wanted to look cute. I respect it. But on a serious note, that feeling she describes, the body taking over, the I have no choice, this is happening sensation, that is powerful. It's a reminder that we are just passengers in our own bodies sometimes. Nature takes the wheel, and you just have to hold on and hope the Gassonair works. That feeling of losing control, of being a passenger in your own body, that doesn't just happen in labor. Sometimes it happens slowly, over years, when your mental health starts to slip away without you even realizing it.
When I think back on the start of my mental health crisis, I go back to the spring of 2016. At the time, I was married to my husband, I owned my own hair salon business, and unknowingly, I was dealing with depression. I was very unhappy in my career. I was really scared to talk to anybody about it because I pretty much did everyone's hair in my life, so I didn't know how I could go about telling anybody that I didn't enjoy my career. I didn't like being paid to feel like I have to be friends with people, being a hairdresser. I know that I didn't need to do that back then, but I felt like I had to be fake. I felt like I had to pretend to like some of my hair clients that I didn't like. And I had gotten married in 2014 and I introduced a bunch of different friends to each other through my bachelorette party and through my wedding. And I was really struggling because they all kind of decided to become better friends with each other than with me. I began feeling really left out because I would go on Facebook and see that they're all, doing different events and stuff and like inviting everybody but me here and there. And so I started to feel really hurt and really sad. And I was also trying at the time to get pregnant and I wasn't able to get pregnant. I was dealing with infertility issues. So I was just pretty much in a really dark space with all of that on top of the fact of not liking my career. And I want to say in like April or May of 2016, my husband and I ended up getting our puppy Roman, which was like one positive thing was to get a new puppy. We had been trying to get pregnant with a human baby for quite a while. We started trying in the spring of 2015. So about a year later, we decided to just get a puppy. And it was really fun having a puppy, but very hard experience. It is like having a baby in a lot of ways. We got him when he was 6 weeks old. And so I was dealing with this depression, but I didn't recognize it as depression back then. I didn't really know what I was feeling and dealing with. I just know that I always felt like I had this like dark cloud following me everywhere that I went. At the time, I did really enjoy drinking and gardening because that was a way that I could escape my own mental health. So I really liked drinking and partying. And I know that that's also a sign of bipolar disorder. But at that point, I wasn't even coming to terms with the fact I had depression, let alone bipolar disorder. Like, I just thought that like everyone has these mental things that I'm dealing with. And so something that really sticks out to me is that I had this hair client who had been doing her hair for several years, and she was a very like robot hair client, like every 8 weeks, highlights and lowlights and like an eyebrow wax. Like, that's just what it was. And she wanted like kind of darker brown highlights and like lighter blonde highlights. And like, I thought that that contrast is very like early 2000s, but like, that's what she wanted. And she was paying me good money and she was a consistent client. So I didn't give her a hard time or really say anything about it. But one day she came in and she's like, I want to try something new. I want to try a balayage. And so I was really excited because I've thought all along, like, this is going to look so much better on her with her, you know, skin tone and her complexion. And just in general, I thought it was going to look way better. And so, sorry, I'm a little bit congested. That's why my voice sounds weird. But she comes in, she wants a balayage. She shows me a bunch of photos from Pinterest, and all of the photos are women that have like a dark root, kind of like me. And then the color starts like further down. And so I explained to her, you know, you're used to getting foils with color coming out of your scalp. This is going to be like a huge change or whatever. And she's like, I know, like, I want to do it. And I was just like, okay, sounds good. So I did it. I took a before and after picture. I remember posting it on my business, my salon business Facebook page, because I was so proud of the transformation. I thought that it looked way better, but I did charge more for balayage than I did for highlights. So her appointment was a little bit more expensive than usual, but that's, you know, I explained that to her. I was really good at doing consultations when I did hair and laying everything on the table so that my clients could, you know, make educated decisions about whatever they want to do. So I curl her hair. It looks great. She pays me. She tips me. She loves it. She leaves. That was on a Saturday. So that Saturday night, I went to a Mariners game with my husband and some friends, got super wasted. I realized that every single week, like looking back, reflecting, every single Saturday when I got off work, I would get really drunk because I didn't work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I had 3 days and I would just like get off work. I would overbook myself. I wouldn't take a break. I wouldn't take lunch breaks. I was, you know, someone in my family gave me their Adderall prescription, and I had another client that was tipping me an Adderall. So I was taking Adderall. I was gardening a lot. I was drinking a lot, and I was dealing with this depression. But again, I thought that, you know, everyone dealt with this. You know, I thought the way I felt inside, I thought that everyone felt that way. Like, I didn't see myself as any different than anybody else. But went and got really drunk at this Mariners game. I tried to take a selfie with me and my friend, and someone in the back of the photo like did like a gesture or did something. And I was so drunk that I ended up turning around and like yelling at that person and being like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why are you messing with my fucking picture or whatever? Got into a fight, and then I got in trouble with the Yellow Jackets. I call them Yellow Jackets. It's the alcohol enforcement that's at NFL games, at MLB games. Got in trouble with the Yellow Jackets more than once, but way back when I was like really struggling with my drinking. And the next morning, my hair client called me and said that she didn't like her hair and that she wanted me to fix it and she wanted me to put foils in her hair. And I was like, oh, well, that's too bad. Like, you know, I think it looks really good, but I understand, like, if you're used to the foils, like, that's what you want. And she was like demanding that I did it for free. Like, and I tried to explain to her, like, I didn't mess up your hair. Like, your hair, I would fix it for free if, like, I made a mistake. Like, I didn't make a mistake. Like, you decided that you wanted this change on your own. We talked about it thoroughly. We did it. You don't like it. You paid for it. Now you want to go back to foils. So if you want me to put foils in your hair, I'm going to have to charge you for it. She threw a fucking temper tantrum. She threw a fit. She yelled at me. And like I had said, she had been a consistent hair client every 8 weeks for like at least 2 or 3 years. And so by me standing up for myself, it made her yell at me. She was like, I'm going to tell everybody how shitty your business is. I'm going to tell everybody not to come here. Cause she was going, it was on a Sunday that she called me after the Mariners game. I'd done her hair the day before. She was going to Vegas on a Wednesday, and I work on Wednesday. So the only way that I was going to be able to fix it is if I went in on my day off, and I had a salon partner. So I would have to like literally go in before she works or after she works, meaning early in the morning or late at night. So I was willing to go above and beyond for this client to fix her hair, whatever, put foils in it. And she just threw a fit at me and just yelled at me. And I just was like, I really stood my ground that like, I'm not gonna put foils in your hair for free. I didn't mess up your hair. And anyways, I just feel like I remember that very distinctly as like, that was the start of my depression getting really, really bad, is by having a client that I had for that many years just completely flip on me, go off on me, say she's going to tell everyone horrible things about my business. And that was like, I would say in May of 2016, and then going into June 2016, I really, really started feeling depressed. Like I started feeling like I didn't want to go to like social engagements that I had like committed to. Like if my husband and we committed to go camping, and like I was starting to get so depressed that I felt like I was like withdrawing from like being social. And so there was this camping thing we were supposed to go on with like his dad and his dad's like friends. And I told my husband that I wanted to cancel, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was because I was feeling depressed. And so his dad got really fucking pissed off, and my husband was kind of like, excuse me, he was kind of like, what's up with you? Like, you normally want to hang out and like do all this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know. And the next defining moment was 4th of July, 2016. And I remember sitting around the campfire at my father-in-law's girlfriend's house and just feeling for the first time, like, I don't really want to be here. Like, I don't like my life. I don't like, I don't know. For the first time, the depression was taken to the next level. I had never felt depression on that level, to the point where I'm thinking that like, I don't even want to be here kind of a thing.
This hits hard because it's so relatable. She talks about being a hairdresser, being paid to be friends with people, and feeling fake. That emotional labor is exhausting. And then you add the isolation, seeing your friends hang out without you on Facebook. That FOMO isn't just jealousy, it triggers a deep sense of unworthiness. The story about the balayage client, oh my God, that is the straw that broke the camel's back. You can do everything right, consultation, great work, and someone will still scream at you. When you're already fragile, that kind of confrontation doesn't just ruin your day. It validates every negative thought you have about yourself. It's scary how she describes the depression creeping in. I didn't know it was depression. That's the danger. You think you're just tired or stressed or partying too much to escape. But that dark cloud she mentions, that's the signal. It's heartbreaking to hear her say she didn't want to be here anymore. It shows that on the outside, you can be a functioning business owner, but inside, the house is burning down. And sometimes, that house has been burning since childhood. If you think a bad client is hard to handle, imagine trying to survive a childhood where the people supposed to protect you are the ones causing the most harm. This next story it's a lot.
I've shared a lot of my life recently here on TikTok, but what I haven't shared is what has got me here. In the past, I've been a little hesitant to share what my life looked like because I never want people to feel bad for me, or on the other hand, people to tell me that they're so proud of me and think that I'm just on here sharing about my life to get praise. On the other hand, social media is a big fat highlight reel, and I think not sharing my life is a disservice to me and other people that I could inspire, especially young people who might have had upbringings that were similar to mine and think that they might not be able to do well for themselves. So let's get into a little about what my past looked like and where I am today. I'm going to start from the beginning. When I was born, my parents were together. My parents were in a very abusive relationship, and it was really open in front of my sibling and I. So we watched that growing up. My dad was also a severe alcoholic and could not live without alcohol. Fast forward until I was about 4 years old. I think around then they got a divorce. My mom remarried to someone who was even more abusive, and we got to watch it all over again. At that point, both of my parents were incarcerated, and I went into foster care. My foster parents were awful to me. They were emotionally abusive, they did not care about me, and were really in it for the money. I was there for, I think, a little over a year. Another thing to note, I have been diagnosed with PTSD and have severe memory issues due to the things that I have been put through. My brain has wired itself to forget because it doesn't want to remember a lot of the things that I went through when I was a kid. So anyways, I went through a foster care, eventually got out and lived with my dad. Like I mentioned, my dad was a severe alcoholic. He would go through a pint of Jaeger and a 24-pack of beer easy every single day. He was always emotionally and verbally abusive, but at some point it turned and he became physically abusive to me. I would get grounded and not be allowed to leave the house to go to school or to practice for literally living my life. It was hard. When I was 15, I had to call the police on my dad because he was driving drunk with my sister in the car and I was scared for her safety and they took us away. Shortly after that, my high school basketball coach and former teacher took me in to live with his family. They are such a blessing. I've lived with them ever since. They are my family. But about a month after that, my dad committed suicide because he could not quit drinking, and he was so frustrated with his life that he couldn't get a grip on it. So around 15, I lost my dad, and that was really the hardest of it all. And it's such a weird feeling to have resentment towards someone for how they treated you, but know that you love them and try to grieve that all. So after that, 15 was about the first time that I kind of had a stable home life and could try to function in society and learn the things that everyone learned growing up. Interacting with people, being a good friend, being a good family member, knowing how to love people and it not be weird. And that was all before college. When college started, that was a slew of its own issues. So where am I today? I have a full-time job. I am a functioning member of society who has friends and I'm in a healthy relationship. I graduated college and I am going back to school for more education. And I don't put this all on the internet to get any sort of validation because trust me, it's uncomfortable for me to sit here and talk in front of a camera about this all, but when I was a kid, I wish I could look at someone who came from my background and understood what I went through and see that they were able to do things that everyone else was doing too. Every time I share my story, I hear that it's inspiring, and if I can inspire even one person to go and follow their dreams and not give up on things just because you were dealt the cards you were dealt, I will share my story all day, every day. On another note, when you're on the internet and you think about judging someone, maybe think twice because you never know what they've been through despite what it might look like. Love you. Bye.
Wow. Just take a breath. To watch your parents' abusive relationship, then go into foster care where you're treated like a paycheck, that is a level of abandonment no child should ever feel. And again, she mentions memory issues. It's a pattern we're seeing today, the brain wiring itself to forget just to survive. The part about her dad really breaks me. He was her abuser, yes, but he was also her dad. And when he committed suicide right after she found safety, that is a complex grief that I can't even imagine. Mourning someone who hurt you is so confusing. But look at where she is now. She has a job, a relationship, she's functioning. She broke the cycle. She says she doesn't want pity and she doesn't want praise. She just wants to show it's possible. That is the definition of resilience. She walked through fire and came out the other side carrying buckets of water for others. That is strength. After all that heaviness, after the trauma and the pain, we need to remember that sometimes life surprises you in the best way possible. Sometimes the solution to your own pain can literally turn into $1 million empire. You guys need to see this.
This is a story of how I accidentally built $1 million business from my bedroom. It all started 6 years ago. My nails became really damaged from constantly going to nail salons, getting acrylics and gel and all that stuff. This is literally what my nails looked like. I had decided that I was no longer going to go to salons and I was going to grow my natural nails out. I did some research and I found out about cuticle oil and all the benefits. I bought every cuticle oil you can think about on the market because I was desperate. When I tell you nothing worked the way I wanted it to, I decided I was going to make my own. So I did my research and came up with this formula and began using it every night before bed. This is my real before and after using my nail growth oil. Now this product I just made for myself. It was never to be sold, never thought about in my mind to start a business or anything. One day I was on TikTok live and I was doing my makeup and someone noticed like my really long nails and they asked me how I got it so long, and after I told them, they asked me if if they could buy my nail oil. That one question changed my life. I made a free website. I literally taught myself how to make a free website. I made some extras. I put them, like 10 of them for sale. I went back on live and I told everyone, gone. All 10 nail oils sold. Then I restocked like 50. Gone. 100. Gone. 1,000. Gone. That's when I realized that this can be bigger than I could have ever imagined. Today, 6 years later, I've sold over 500,000 tubes of my nail growth oil. My customers' results are insane. I'll just show you a couple. Okay, here they are. I even had a crazy month where I made almost $500,000. I retired my parents. I bought my mom her dream car. Never in my life would I have thought my nail growth oil would be the #1 cuticle pen on TikTok Shop. And I would not be here today if it wasn't for that one person on TikTok. So thank you to whoever that was. This is your reminder that you have to believe in your product before anyone else can. So if you're passionate about something, it's been on your mind and you want to start a business, do it. Just start before you're ready.
This is the palate cleanser we needed. She didn't start a business to get rich. She started it because her nails were wrecked. That is the best kind of entrepreneurship, solving your own problem. She was desperate, nothing worked, so she made her own formula. And I love the serendipity of this. One person on TikTok asking, "Can I buy that?" changed her entire trajectory. It's wild how one question can unlock a future you never saw coming, from 10 bottles to 500,000, retiring her parents. Come on, that is the dream. It's a beautiful reminder that your flaws or your problems, like damaged nails, can actually be the seed of your greatest success. She believed in her product before anyone else did. That's the takeaway. Start before you're ready. Just start. Today has been an absolute gauntlet of emotions. We started in a haunted French castle, witnessing a scene that felt like fiction, but was terrifyingly real. We felt the visceral, bone-crushing reality of childbirth. We sat in the salon chair, feeling the slow, suffocating weight of depression. We walked through the fires of an abusive childhood and suicide. And finally, we saw a woman build an empire from her bedroom. It's easy to look at these 5 videos as completely separate worlds. What does a nail oil business have to do with a haunted castle? What does childbirth have to do with foster care? But if you look closer, there is a golden thread weaving them all together: the human capacity to endure and to transform. Think about the castle nightmare. That young girl faced a literal monster in the dark. Her survival instinct kicked in. Her brain protected her memories and she got out. Now look at the downward spiral of the hairdresser. Her monster wasn't a man with a knife. It was a chemical imbalance and a crushing sense of isolation. But the battle is just as dangerous. The survival mode looks different. Maybe it's numbing with alcohol instead of running down a turret staircase. But the drive to keep going is the same. And that's the thing about social media. We hear the phrase, highlight reel, constantly, especially in the video about the foster care survivor. She hesitated to share her story because she didn't want pity, but she also knew that her perfect life now, the job, the relationship, is a lie if she doesn't acknowledge the hell she walked through to get there. We judge people so harshly. We see a hairdresser and think, oh, she's just partying. We don't see the depression. We see a successful business owner and think, she got lucky. We don't see the desperation of damaged nails and the late nights mixing oil in a bedroom. The birth story really anchors this for me. Pain is inevitable, whether it's physical pain like labor, emotional pain like grief, or the psychological pain of trauma. But just like in birth, pain often precedes new life. The foster care survivor birthed a new version of herself, one that is stable and loved. The business owner birthed a company that retired her parents. Even the hairdresser, by sharing her story, is birthing a conversation that might save someone else who feels that same dark cloud. So, what is the lesson here? It's what the nail oil CEO said. Start before you're ready. But I'd take it a step further. Survive before you're ready. Heal before you're ready. You don't have to have it all figured out to keep moving forward. You might be in the middle of the haunted castle right now, or you might be in the middle of the cramps. But the story doesn't end there. If these women can face murderers, losing parents, mental collapse, and physical agony, and still come out the other side to tell us about it, then you can get through whatever your Tuesday threw at you. I want to know from you guys, which of these stories resonated with you the most? Was it the thriller, the tragedy, or the triumph? And have you ever had a moment like the nail oil girl, where a small problem turned into your biggest win? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe